Who are the United Nations and what does the organization stand for? On the website, we read, the United Nations is an international organization founded in 1945, currently made up of 193 member states. The UN and its work are guided by the purposes and principles contained in its founding charter. Hello, viewers. Welcome to this episode of Ebenezer Moments. The mini-series is Resuscitating Kenya, based on a children's book written in 2010, a reflection on the hotly contested general election of 2007 in Kenya. In this series, today's episode particularly sheds light on the United Nations' role in the process of the dialogue that brought the country back to some resemblance of peace. The values enshrined on the Charter of the United Nations, one of them is peace. On the front page of the UN, on their website, states, it is a place where the world's nations can gather together, discuss common problems, and find shared solutions. It remains the one place on earth where all the world's nations can gather together, discuss common problems, and find shared solutions that benefit all humanity. In the end, says the General Secretary of the United Nations, it comes down to values. We want the world our children inherit to be defined by the values enshrined in the UN Charter, which is peace, justice, respect, human rights, tolerance, and solidarity. So, how did the UN achieve this goal in an environment that had deteriorated significantly and the opposing sides were not interested in peace, in dialogue, in mediation, leave alone listening to an outsider? In page 7 of Resuscitating Kenya, I write, different nations of the world have an agreement to help each other out in times of crisis. They started a group that serves as equivalent to a big sibling. In the family of nations, there are equivalent to siblings, brothers and sisters who take care of each other. This group, which has representatives from all the member states, is termed United Nations. The United Nations has always made every effort to help its member nations anytime they have a dispute that they cannot solve on their own. The countries that are more stable and able at any given time make every effort to assist those who may be experiencing a problem. And just like parents or older siblings or siblings who feel at a given time stable will step in a situation when their siblings or their children are having a dispute, unable to resolve a dispute, and maybe resorting to fighting it out or arguing about it. So the UN stepped in by the immediate neighboring nations to Kenya. But they didn't just come in to impose the help that Kenya needed. It's Kenyans who called upon the United Nations, and the United Nations responded to the crisis to help restore peace and some semblance of peaceful coexistence. So peace and ongoing stability was the desired goal for the nation. But that is the one thing that seemed to have dogged the nation the most at this time, when opposing parties were fighting out, each person claiming victory, and one person having almost outmaneuvered the other and went ahead to make that what they believed was their election victory a reality without following the due process. UN is like a sibling helping the other for peace. But we, as I've always said, in our faith tradition, there is also a path to peace. Peace is not only recommended in the Christian tradition, in the Bible. Peace is required. It's highly required. In Romans 12:18, we read, "If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone." Did the parties achieve peace? How did they achieve peace? Through dialogue and mediation. There had to come a time when they were tired of just arguing and fighting. It was getting them nowhere. There was time to sit down and talk, but there was need for a mediator. And that's where the UN came in. A sibling helping a sibling, a neighbor helping their fellow neighbor. The African way. When people lived in the village, it was structured in such a way that it was not a mind your own business kind of life. There is this saying that's normally repeated worldwide, that it takes a village to raise a child. The village was the immediate neighbor. Within homesteads, if there was a squabble or a scruffle or a noise or something that sounded like a fight in the neighborhood within the village, villagers were welcome to come in and ask, how can we help? What can we do? How can we mediate? How can we sit down and listen to each side of the strife and help bring you to a place of, mediate this situation to a place of compromising and accepting and getting back to dialogue. That is what happened in Kenya. It had to take the goodwill of not only the leaders, but also the people, the voters, the members of the different parties. This is the basics of interpersonal relationships, starting with dialogue, starting with communication. And that is what the social structures, social societies, the churches, the groups in Kenya, and even the international community was really, really hoping and desiring that something, if people can just take a break, step back from the situation. Emotions were running high, stakes were really, really high, but it had to take people stopping just long enough to listen to each other with the help of a mediator. So if the group of churches, the faith traditions, religious groups could not help them come together and talk, the social societies could not come together, then the call was made for external assistance, for the neighbor, the neutral, objective party to come in. They don't belong to any, the ruling or the opposition, and they did not vote. So they are the neutral party. They are objective. They can see the bigger picture. And that's who was called in. So in the next episode, we'll start to unpack the process that brought the country back to some peaceful state. What they agreed on, how they agreed, and what the implications of that was. Join us in the next episode as we look at the process that was initiated by making the call to the United Nations and how this organization came in and what the process was of initiating a path back to peace. On behalf of all of us at Ebenezer, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for checking out our channel. And thank you for engaging with us. We invite your comments, your insights, your questions. as we continue discussing this issue on this year that is the eve of the next general elections, 20 years after the difficult incident that was a result of contested general elections in Kenya. See you in the next episode.